Good evening. I'm Amy. Tonight's Live Around 5 is kind of interesting. It's why I think we should say no to cancel culture. I know that's kind of ironic because, in some ways, I'm talking about canceling cancel culture. But who's sick of this already, right? We've been doing this for a few years and it's exhausting, in my opinion. Have you ever been afraid to say what you really think, either about politics or religion? Or any issue these days, it seems like, well, do you like the taste of that cake? What do you do if you don't like the taste of the cake? I say, well, I wrote here, F it. Like, really, we have got to come back to a space where we are being who we are respectfully and listening and learning from others that disagree with us. If you follow me, you know that that's one of the biggest goals that I have is obviously my mission is to teach people how to be resilient and take control of your health. But it's really important for me that everyone is welcome under this tent and everyone is seen and everyone can express their feelings, concerns. That's when magic truly happens, in my opinion, not just in society, but in business. When you have multiple voices adding to something, you're going to get a better product. Period. I just know this from many years of experience. And the other reasons that cancel culture are dangerous is, first of all, you're really just skipping due process, right? You're jumping over the entire part of the concern where you learn, well, what really happened? And there is a process for kind of working through either social injustices or even legal issues. I can't count on one hand the number of times somebody has said something about a celebrity that ended up being 1000% untrue, but we never saw that untrue part, right? The second thing is that free speech isn't really free if you're afraid to say what you believe in the public square. I'll be honest, there are limits to this, right? We have the old legal standard of fire in a movie house. There's also legal standards in hate speech. I support all of eliminating that and drawing lines where we can be civil with each other. But I don't think it's okay to feel like you can't say, I was happy to get vaccinated. I chose not to get vaccinated. That's a perfect example, right? I think whatever choice you made for you was the best choice for you. And if you're afraid to talk about why you made that choice, how it's impacted you, we're never going to come to a place where we're partnering together if we just cancel somebody because they think differently than we do. It also promotes an online mob mentality. We've all seen it, right? Where something goes viral, and whether it's true or not, it's like the entire internet ends up really ganging up against either a person or an idea. There are some incredible examples in politics on both sides, of course, but in general, it just anytime you're part of a big mob going after something, you're probably not in the right place. Fourth is that it almost always lacks context and nuance. Now, there are certain things that are just obvious. That's not okay. It doesn't mean you cancel the person talking about it, right? You can still learn from them and talk to them. Of course, we don't sit here and say, there are nuances to murder in general. So there are nuances and context a lot of the times when these mob mentalities will take just a single phrase out of context because we don't understand the entire depth and breadth of what was said. The nuance is missed, the context is missed. And I will never forget when this happened to me. I was in Seattle and I was part of an initiative where we were working to rescue a school that was about to have its funding cut. And I was interviewed by the media in downtown Seattle at a school board meeting. And the reporter said, well, what are people arguing against you? And unfortunately, I didn't have media training at the time, and I only had a couple years experience. And I said what the opposition was saying. That's what got aired on the news that night in Seattle, Washington. Right? So you literally might have believed, if you had been watching that interview, exactly the opposite of what I was there to achieve. So you've really got to understand context and nuance. Fourth is that you've got vigilante justice. People have been hurt because they've been falsely accused and people have been angry. It's never a good thing when we put the justice in the hands, and I mean literal scary justice, not, hey, go to the courthouse. That's actual justice, right? But when vigilantes decide they're going to start taking over and be a part of making the resolution right of a situation they don't even know the ins and outs of. Next is that it can have a chilling effect on creativity and innovation. If we can't all sit around and talk about ideas, if we can't discuss the growth of how do we get more young people to vote, or what are we going to do about the shortage in energy, If we can't hear all voices in those discussions, we are absolutely cutting our nose off to spite our face, because it's only when you get on that iron sharpens iron type setting where you're really able to go back and forth and talk and get into some really creative spaces that you would have missed without that time and without people who truly disagree with you. And last but not least, it can have a huge impact on mental health and well-being. It really is a weird time to be alive. For someone in their 50s, I look back on my life and there's never been a time where I felt less comfortable being exactly who I am in all settings. Not because I'm afraid I'm going to offend someone, but because I'm literally scared for my safety, depending on the day and the discussion. And I am wildly privileged. So I recognize that that is much more difficult for a large majority of our population. So I think as a country, one of the things that could make the biggest impact on our resilience, both as a nation and as individuals, is if we come together and realize that things are often just more complicated than they seem, and that this vigilante justice, mob mentality, cancel culture has got to stop. And when we choose to be silent in those moments and not contribute to the mob mentality, when we choose to stand up and say, do we really know all of the information? Why don't we wait and see what happens down the road? Let's get more information before we make a judgment. We are standing up for resilience and we are standing up for what's right. And especially if someone disagrees with you, I would encourage you to stand up for them and make sure their voice is heard, because this country is founded on exactly that. The minute we all agree with each other all the time, we've lost, because that's a dictatorship. That's totalitarianism, right? What we want is we want the ability to respectfully and fruitfully, in disagreement, come up with the best solutions for all of us. So I hope that you can be present in those moments and stand up in that way. And I can't wait to see how your weekend goes. I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend. Remember to have something to look forward to every day. You deserve it. And I look forward to seeing you back here Monday, live around 5. I'm so grateful that you're here, especially if you disagree with me. Take care.